This episode is brought to you by Midwest Night Watchers, found everywhere on your favorite podcast platforms.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Piercing the Veil.
Hey, welcome in, everyone. We are early tonight, but I do see we got 2 UK people so far.
All right.
Yeah, welcome in, everyone. And thank you for coming early. Tyler has another show to do, so we just went, hey, that's okay. We'll just do 4 o'clock. So thanks for joining us early, everyone.
I mean, actually, we've been thinking about switching times just to try it out. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to test the waters, and maybe we'll go to a 4 or 5 p.m. I don't know.
Yeah, we might. The UK people are still awake. Welcome in, Lulu and Elaine. It's nice to see you guys. And then everyone else, we got Denise, we've got Henry, Chastity, Blazer. Let's see, Heidi Pop was in earlier.
Tim Mothman was in.
Tim Mothman. Thanks for coming in, everyone.
So we have Tyler Kiwala coming back. We had him and Aaron on last time, and we wanted to invite Tyler back, and we'll have Aaron back also at some point. And we just wanted to get into their each individual stories, and maybe we'll have them back together again sometime also. I don't know, just whatever happens, but we're excited to have Tyler here and get to talk to him one-on-one and see what's going on in his world. Because a lot of times as people have, like we've talked about, we don't get into our experiences very often. We interview guests and love to hear their stories. So a lot of times we don't get a chance to tell our stories. And we assume some people that have podcasts don't really get the opportunity to what got them involved in the field, or whether it's UFO, paranormal, whatever it is. And it's nice to have an opportunity to talk to these people and see what they're all about and how they got started.
And Mods, hi Gary, I see Gary in here, and Val. Mods, there's a link at the top that's Tyler's show coming up in a couple hours, right? The link that you posted?
Yes, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. on Rumble, and I'm sure there'll be other channels that they multicast to or bring it up. But we'll let Tyler tell us all about that, and we'll just go ahead and bring him up, and we'll get started.
Yes. Welcome back, Tyler.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, nice of you to come. We were just telling everybody that you have a show tonight, so you can go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and bring up the show that you're doing, a roundtable that you guys are promoting.
Yeah, so the roundtable tonight is just for an event that Tony Rodriguez is putting on, him and some other people in Sedona. It's a one-day event on October 19th, and it's not our event. We're just sponsoring it, so I'll be there doing some live podcasts. I'm not presenting or anything. And the whole purpose of the roundtable is just to create some buzz and kind of set the stage, get some ticket sales and all that. There you go, right there. I think, a lot of these people are from Tony's remote viewing group, Lily Nova, Jackie Kenner, and Yemi Janae, I get tongue twisted saying that every time. But yeah, so there's a great lineup, and we're just going to have some fun tonight, just going through and talking about that. But and we just announced our conference that's going to be May 12th through the 15th next year. Tickets aren't on sale yet, but it is in Grafton, Illinois again.
Awesome.
And yeah, there you go. Look, you guys are prepared.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get there next year, at least a 1-day ticket. We can't really do it overnight with our goats and chickens, but you said bring them. You know, we could bring goats and chickens down, but no, we're going to definitely try to do a 1-day event and meet a bunch of people next year.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Like I said, tickets aren't available yet. I think we're shooting for October 1st to launch ticket sales, and same place, same theme again, Rebels of Disclosure. It's been a different theme every year, but this year it was last year, everyone loved it and we loved the theme, and it just kind of made sense to stick with that again. And it's a fun theme. I don't know. So it's a cool logo, you know, kind of captures that like inner child and that Star Wars energy, but still like it allows us to keep it lighthearted. I don't know. So we're really excited about that. And we'll hopefully have information on that soon.
Well, maybe we'll have to twist your arm about getting some VIP passes or something.
No, yeah, we can talk. I mean, if you guys want to come set up a table or something there, you know, and promote your stuff, we can definitely talk. We'll just do that off camera for sure.
Yeah, wow. I know. I was just messing around. No, we'd love to come and I mean, all these people that we have on our show and we see on your guys' show and other podcasts, you know, it's nice to be able to meet them face to face. A lot of these people, and actually, you know, be able to be one-on-one with them and just have a little conversation, you know, because it's a busy schedule when you're at conventions or anything like that. You know, it's like you'd like to spend time with everybody, but you just have so much time in between being a guest speaker and doing things. And
yeah, I bet the Sasquatch is ready for you to return.
Yeah, that's always a fun part about it. Definitely, you know, everyone has their experiences there, and you know, even me personally. But I mean, they're there, and according to the people that can communicate with them, they were the only event that they actually come out for. So and I think that has everything to do with the frequency that we're putting out. You know, the vibration, and just kind of, we do a lot of groundwork preparing for the conference. We, you know, there's healers and energy workers and stuff that actually are doing a lot of grid work and stuff months prior to the event. So it's not like we're just showing up haphazardly and throwing around our energy. We're really trying to set the stage, and there's a whole energetic component to it that most people don't even realize is going on. But we're really doing some clearing and making sure that there's really nothing but positive energy there. And you know, you can't help it sometimes, you know, because, you know, the nature of reality, but sometimes some negative, you know, and some negative frequencies try to work their way in, but we definitely have some safeguards up for that. So,
you know, most people don't think about that when you go on a paranormal adventure or even a cryptid adventure, you know, whether it's Bigfoot or whatever, that there's more than just flesh and blood things to deal with. You have to be on a spiritual realm. You, like you said, frequency and vibrations. You have to clear the area out of ill will, and so they'll be comfortable in the area to present themselves even.
Right. Yeah, and I think they appreciate that. I mean, that people are even setting that intention. And it might be even surprising to them in some cases, because I don't think a lot of people are thinking that far ahead most of the time, and even considering them, and, you know, considering clearing, you know, keeping the negativity away from their sacred space. So, you know, I went on a ghost hunt years ago in Onondaga Cave, which is in Missouri. And back then I really didn't have the eyes to see like I do now, and looking at it now, I realize that place is probably owned by the government, military. There's a lot of shady stuff there. It's been closed now for a while for changing the lights, but that's like, I know for a fact that's an excuse. I can feel it. I think that's tied to some underground bases, maybe a network. I don't know, but there's not the greatest energy there. And I didn't know that at the time, but my dad and I went on a paranormal investigation at 9 o'clock at night. They gave us 12 of us the keys to the cave. We can roam the whole thing. We didn't have to stay on the path, that the tours usually have to stay on. And they gave us all some gear to go, pick up any audio clips that we can, sound bites, all the whatever. I don't know what all the gear is called, but so anyway, we were there, and I actually ended up picking up an entity and bringing it home with me. Something attached itself to me. Actually, it wasn't until, so it was an awesome experience, especially just having the cave to yourself. And they didn't turn the lights on like they would for the tour. So it was pitch black and we just had our flashlights. But when I left on the way home, I was just driving home. Actually, I was going to go meet up with some friends afterwards. And it literally felt like something jumped into my body. And I almost had to pull the car over. I started getting so sick to my stomach. I got nauseous. And I don't know how you can describe how you know sometimes, but you just know. I knew it was something from that cave that I brought back with me, and it somehow attached itself to me. And I barely made it home. Like I got so sick, like in an instant, and I knew I could feel another presence there. It was like something like hitchhiked onto me. So I didn't know what to do about it. And I just happened to be going to like a psychic fair or something, either the next day or that weekend, the coming weekend. And I went to the psychic fair and I walked around and there was a Reiki healer there. And she said, hey, welcome to the fair, whatever. She kind of greeted me and she told me about her services. And I was like, thanks, but I'm going to walk around, browse around first before I, decide on who I'm going to pay or whatever, how we do. And so I walked around. And I came back to her and she goes, are you ready to get rid of this thing? And I was like, wow. I said, I was like taken back. I was like, how did you know? And she's like, my hands do this thing every time. If somebody's carrying an entity, my palms start sweating when they're in my presence. And I just know like my antenna. And I was like, yeah, that's so crazy. And I told her the story and she's like, yeah, she goes, I can help you. We can remove this right now. And like she laid me down on the table and she did like something special that she wasn't even really offering that day. And she took this big drum out and there was a lot of frequencies and stuff and basically chased this thing out. And I felt it leave and I felt light again and normal again. And I was just like, wow, what are the odds of that? That I just run into somebody the next day that could sense it. So to go back to my point, had I known what I know now, I would never go into a paranormal investigation without putting up some sort of protection, without putting something in place to keep myself protected, to ensure that I'm not bringing anything home with me. So it's a great reminder for anyone who's doing this kind of work that like there are things you can do. You don't have to you don't have to play the victim all the time. You don't have to open yourselves up. You can still play in the dark, but you don't have to open yourself up to it.
Right.
You were meant to go through that as a lesson. You learned from it. So you were meant to go through that experience.
Right.
Yeah, there's you want to protect yourself on the entry and the exit. And then before you get into your vehicle and when you get home, make sure you do it again before you go into your house. So just in case it's still wandering around looking. I wonder where it went after it left you that day.
I don't know. I hope it didn't jump into somebody else, but
I might have.
I don't know what her protocol was. She might have sent it back where it came from. I don't know. Right. We can just speculate. But, whenever I used to drink and party, after my mom passed away is when all this paranormal stuff started happening, ET abduction type of stuff, levitating out of my bed, all of it. But I was also a heavy drinker back then. And I was certainly opening myself up to it. And I had no idea about any of this stuff. So, and whenever You drink and you pass out, you black out, you're drunk, you're just out. You're dead to the world until you wake back up. There's no telling what can happen while you're passed out like that, and what these entities can do, even government agencies with technologies to abduct people. I mean, you're literally giving them a free pass. Like, you're consenting to whatever dark agendas that they have or however they want to use you. And I don't think people realize that. So it's important. Like, I don't know. I was looking back now. Well, first of all, now that I don't drink anymore and the stuff that happens to me at night that I remember, I'm like, what was happening that I don't remember? That I was just blacked out to? How was I being used? And one example of this actually is I don't know if I've ever told the story publicly, but it was towards the end of my drinking days. I don't even remember what year. 2016 maybe. I was still getting out of it. 2016, early 2017. I didn't drink as much, but I was kind of, I still had my weekends where I would go out. And I came home from drinking one night and I was pretty drunk, and I was sitting on the couch and I was on the phone with my girlfriend. And this was my girlfriend at the time was the first girl that I've ever dated that was a channel. She could channel, she had some abilities, but she was still learning too. She was still she was a bartender. So we were kind of both at the same frequency. And I was on the phone with her on the couch, and I ended up passing out while I was talking to her. I just fell asleep. And, she has abilities to tap in and hear stuff and things. Well, I didn't know what happened. I just woke up the next morning on the couch with my phone, whatever.
Right.
But I had a bunch of texts and calls from her. So, are you okay? Call me as soon as you get up, blah, 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 blah. So I called her as soon as I woke up, and she told me what happened was, she said I just stopped talking. She just assumed I fell asleep. We were in the middle of a conversation. I just stopped talking. But she said it sounded like she started hearing this chanting. She said it sounded like demonic voices, like these. It sounded like, she said it sounded like a group of people walked into my living room and had a satanic ritual, and she could hear the whole thing. She said she heard numerous voices, these demonic chants, and she was screaming. She said she was screaming at the top of her lungs on the phone, like for me to wake up. I'm like, wake up, wake up. I don't know. I was out. I was dead to the world. Right. And she thought like somebody was killing me. She didn't know. But she said she sat there and she didn't hang up the phone, even though it was disturbing, because she felt like somehow she was able to still protect me. And the way she told the story was way more intense than I'm telling it now. But I mean, because she had the fear in her while she was telling the story, because I was just like, I was completely clueless to what was happening. But apparently she said that this sounded like a satanic ritual was being performed in my living room with me.
Wow.
And I just think about that now. I'm like, that's, we just happened to know about that because she was on the phone with me.
Right.
And happened to just, before she hung up, she happened to hear something that made her stay on the line. But how many times does something like that happen to somebody that passes out drunk that they just don't know? And like, you're serving their agenda, right? Whenever you're just consenting and giving away your power, essentially. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think about, especially if I ever consider having a drink or anything again, just like, it's a whole new ball game now. We can't just we don't have the luxury to misuse our energy like we used to, especially, if we understand that this is a true spiritual war.
Right.
Yeah, they talk about that all the time, about anything that can incapacitate you, whether you go into a stupor or, like you said, you just pass out, even surgery, when they put you under anesthetics and you're not fully conscious, or some surgeries you're completely knocked out. So there's things that you want to protect yourself before you do surgeries also. And that's innocent. People go in for a surgery and not realizing, okay, what's going on to them, just like what happened to you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the surgeries, like when I had my my wisdom teeth pulled, you know, you don't even know what happens. Or I had shoulder surgery before. They put you out and then you wake up. You think 5 minutes passed, but you were gone for an entire day, you know.
Right.
It's really scary to think about, actually.
So is there anything going on in your life that would attribute to these things coming in while you were passed out? I mean, have you guys been able to determine anything that happened?
I just think that, you know, when my mom passed away and I started getting the attacks and the sleep paralysis and the ET stuff, it got really dark just suddenly. Like I went my whole life without having, well, at least I didn't remember anything that was happening to me. And then all of a sudden, here I am fighting for my life is what it felt like. I actually thought the very first time I was under sleep paralysis and there was like an entity on top of me. I like, you know, you see the visual with something sitting on your chest. That's real.
Right.
And I thought I was dying, and I thought I had the thought in my head that somebody was going to find me dead in that room the next day. Like I didn't understand what was happening. And they told me, well, through some like psychic and channel sessions that I've had over the years, the best answer I could come up with was that, you know, you don't just, you know, this is a war for your soul right now while you're dead and alive. And just because you transition doesn't mean they still aren't going after your soul. And it was explained to me during the session, take it with a grain of salt, that they were using me as bait to try and lure my mom's soul in to capture her soul after her passing. So she dies. I start like getting these horrific attacks that I'm literally fearing for my life. They know that she wouldn't be able to sit there. She wouldn't be able to stand seeing me suffer like that. So they were trying to attract her soul to basically protect me, as you know, and use me as bait to whatever capture her. Now that I don't know if that's actually what happened, but that's the way it was explained, and I can't come up with a better explanation because I still have no idea why that would happen. I do understand now that it kicked me off on this, you know, this spiritual awakening, right?
Right.
The great awakening. And I'm grateful for all of it because, you know, whenever you start in the darkness, you have nowhere else to go. You know, you have nowhere else to go but out to the light, you know. And so I had to believe in things that I didn't believe in. I had to learn how to protect myself from things that I couldn't see. And there was just a number of things that I learned from it that I'm grateful that had I not had those experiences, I would have never been able to, I would never know. I would have no awareness of that of what's possible in the astral realm and the severity, I guess you could say, of this spiritual war.
Well, it's nice that you had people around, like your girlfriend, that can actually see it, have an insight to what was happening. I mean, that was just phenomenal. She just happened to be on the phone at the time that this happened. Because like you said, you would have never known otherwise. So this is probably a crossroads point in your life. You know, and we have many throughout our lives, you know, where we can go one way or another, you know, depending on how it is. And we don't know the things that are fighting either for us or against us. I mean, there's just a whole realm out there until you wake up and start realizing that it's just not I'm going to the grocery store, I got to go to work, I got to take after the kids. You know, there's lots of things out there that is trying to either do ill will towards you or be beneficial towards you. And we have to sort that out the best we can.
Yeah. And as soon as you're like about to, what I call break programming, or wake up or just even snap yourself out of a cycle, right? There are people and entities in place that I say, just, you know, for lack of a better term, as a metaphor, they get the call, right? They get the call and they're sent in to make sure that you don't make that move, to make sure you don't leave that job, to make sure that you stay where they can control you. They don't want you to break that programming. And that's what happens. So whenever you talk about going to the grocery store or Walmart or wherever it is, sometimes there are people who aren't people or might have entities working through them. And there are so many things that are possible that you sound absolutely insane talking about them as a reality. But in my opinion, like anything you can imagine is real. Like we just don't like we're living in such an illusion that the truth is quite literally stranger than fiction, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, there are people who I even hesitate talking about this stuff because I can't prove it. It's just things I think about. But let's just say you can run into people who aren't necessarily normal people and they have an agenda and they might be targeting you, whether they know it or not. Some people can be used, unbeknownst to them. Sometimes some people are like sleeper cells that, the government
Right.
programs these MK Ultra victims into doing things that they don't remember. Sometimes there's
Right.
just entities working through people, and sometimes people think they're having their own thoughts, but it's actually not their own thoughts. It could be a voice of God technology, or it could be entities, and we can and do run into those people sometimes. And sometimes if they even make eye contact with you or bump into you, you never know what that can be doing to you energetically. And we just have to always, have our head on a swivel.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I mean, Jane's like that all the time. We'll be out somewhere and she goes, did you feel that? Did you see that? And it's like, no, that's why I keep her around all the time next to me. It's like,
That's why I stay home most of
she
the
got her
time.
sensor, I know she's got her sensors out, and it's like I just kind of go out about my day, and she's like, did you see that person? Or because we were at Walmart, I believe it was Walmart one time, and there was a guy in like a trench coat, which was kind of weird. He's all dark, everything was dark about him, and he's just staring in the frozen pizzas.
Yeah.
And as soon as he turned over and looked at us, it's like, oh my gosh, that is not a normal person. Something is going on.
And they like Walmart. All the Walmarts are owned by they're all owned by the military. People don't know that.
Yeah.
They had plans to turn them into FEMA camps at one point, and a lot of
Mhm.
them have offices. They have a second floor that people don't know about. Sometimes it may not be very big, but they'll have like private offices that are actually not, I don't know if they're owned, but they're used by private contractors. And it's there could be some nefarious groups and some people, military intelligence agencies, using Walmarts as their headquarters sometimes, and we just don't know it.
And all the old empty ones before they made all the super Walmarts. They left all these abandoned Walmarts. Some of them are being bought. We have some that are like a Rural King or something like that inside, but most of those old Walmarts are still empty.
Right. Yeah. In malls and abandoned malls, and there's
Right.
all kinds of theories around surrounding that. But I've ran into some weird people at Walmart, and just this year in January, I was going to Arkansas, and I go with like a group of people, and we do some pretty heavy grid work sometimes. I mean, I'm talking like not just like, oh, we have a meditation. We're going on these crazy hikes to the top of these mountains, and we're communicating with other frequencies and really like I guess reconnecting some energetic threads that have been disconnected for years, and like kind of regridding the planet. So, and I know like on a number of these trips we've been followed, and we've been had just weird things happen. It's not even like we're like paranoid. It's there's a group of people, and sometimes you can't deny it that somebody's watching what we're doing. But I went to this Walmart by my house, and I'm looking to buy a new jacket because it was cold in Arkansas. I wanted a new coat for the trip, and I noticed this guy in a black hoodie and a beanie, like everywhere I was going in the section looking for a hoodie or a new jacket, like he was there. And I didn't think much of it at first, but I noticed him, and he was just kind of staying near me, and I still wrote it off. And I decided to walk all the way across the store to go look for something else, a water bottle. And I'm walking all the way across the store. It's like on the other side of the store. And, I'm thinking I just left this guy. I didn't look behind me. So I like get to one aisle and I stopped to look at something. And this guy, like he was right behind me. He followed me and I turned around and he was there and he had his phone and I I can't remember the actor's name. He had a picture of him and some actor on his phone. And he goes, "Hey," he goes, "You know this actor?" And he threw his phone in my face. And like, I didn't even have like an option. I didn't even have time to not look at his phone. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know him." He was like, "Yeah, I met him a couple weeks ago. Isn't that cool?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he asked me if I ever seen this show, maybe Arrested Development. I don't remember. Anyway, the whole thing caught me off guard. I just wasn't expecting it, right? And then he was like, "Okay, have a good day. See you later." And then he walked away.
Oh, wow.
But he literally like walked around in front of me, threw his phone in my face, almost to like ID me or something, you know, like to make sure
Did a
that,
scan?
like, yeah. And then he didn't like really care about the conversation. He was just like, "Do you know this actor?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, I met him a few weeks ago. Have you ever seen this show?" I'm like, "No, I don't actually watch it." He's like, "Okay, have a good day." And then he took off. And then I get in line at the checkout, and I pull out my wallet, and there's this couple behind me. They come in line behind me, and the guy's like, "Nice wallet." You know, he starts talking to me about my wallet, which is really weird. And then I hear the couple behind me starts talking about Mandela effects and time travel, and like very loudly, to where like almost like they knew that I would have to like chime in. And they eventually, the guy asked me, he's like, "You know anything about that stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually I do. It's kind of weird that you're asking, you know." And so I don't know like what actually happens and who these people are, but like it was such a weird encounter at Walmart. And it was one of those things where I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm like, what was that about? You know, it was like 2 days before I'm leaving for this trip. And I don't know, it's just weird, you know.
Yeah, you never know what's in and around you. I've talked about this before, and other people have too, that you go to a bigger city, whatever, you just see all these people going up and down the sidewalk, whether Chicago, New York, wherever. Well, you don't know how many of those people are actually real human beings, how many are non-player characters, how many of them are actually part of a team for some nefarious group. I mean, they could be following you. I've noticed people that when we go to a bigger city, go out, do our shopping or whatever, every once in a while, you'll think, did I see that guy in the last store I was in?
Right.
It doesn't even have to be the same store. It could be 2 stores and across town. And all of a sudden that same person's in that store with you.
Right.
That's happened a lot.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's weird. It's like these watchers, they're like agents. Like, have you ever seen the John Wick movies or whatever? Like,
yeah.
But I think it's good disclosure. Even the Matrix discloses this, along with a number of other movies. But the field agents, they're disguised as street musicians, homeless people, businessmen, artists. It doesn't matter. Like everyday normal people, and they're literally peppered all throughout society. And you could be passing these field agents every day, just like in John Wick, you know, and then all of a sudden everybody gets the alert for the kill, like, "Oh, you know, take this guy out." So, and then you see who all of them become activated. I think there's a lot of people like that. That
I do too.
Yeah, that I think we just don't realize we pass all the time. You know,
we watch movies all the time, not only because we think, you know, there would be a good movie, but we watch for red pill, soft disclosures, all that stuff. Sometimes I'll watch movies 4 or 5 times within a week or two, you know, just to watch it and say, "Hey, man, I can't believe that spot. I want to see that scene again." We watched The Adjustment Bureau. If you've ever seen that movie.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. I reference that movie a lot, and I think there's so much truth to that movie. Like so much.
So if anybody hasn't seen The Adjustment Bureau, go out and check it out. It's a really good movie, and it has, just like what Tyler was saying, it has a lot of stuff in it that could apply to your daily life, that could be going in and around you, and you're just unaware.
And I would encourage everybody to read. So that's Philip K. Dick. He is the writer of that story. And he's also written a number of stories that have been turned into a lot of our disclosure films. But in the 50s or 60s, he wrote the book called The Adjustment Team that the movie was made after. And I've got the book and I read the book. And it's only 50 pages. It's a short story. And the book is a little different than the movie, but it's still the same concept. And I highly recommend it. If you like the movie, go read the book. It's a short read, but it's worth it. The Adjustment Team is the name of the book.
Wow. Nice.
Wow.
But yeah, they like, there's people. So when my friend and I, we were in Colorado doing some of this grid work, and we had to hike literally to the top of this mountain, and it was a 16-mile hike, 8 miles in, 8 miles out. We did it all in one day. And this is like up a mountain, and it was like one of the hardest days ever. Like we were exhausted. We really weren't planning on going that far, but she's a channel and she's connecting, and we're like, whatever, kind of like on a mission, you could say. And a bunch of weird stuff happened on the way there and on the way back, but I'll save all that because it's a long story. But when we got back into town, this little town in Colorado, and I can't remember the name of it. But it's a weird town. It almost seems too perfect. It's like trapped in time. And we wanted, for some reason, on the way back, we both suddenly got a craving for pizza. We're like, what do you want for dinner? She's like, I want pizza. I'm like, yeah, me too, actually. It sounds really good. So we were like, yeah. So we went into town, and the one pizza place that we wanted to go to, we pulled up to it, and my friend was like, I don't get a good vibe. I'm not getting a good vibe. I'm like, yeah, me neither. So we went down the street to another pizza place. We parked, got out. Oh, shit, it just closed. So the only other pizza place that was open was the one we weren't getting a good vibe from. Actually, most of the restaurants were closing. So we just went back to that one. Like we were guided back there. And we went in, and there was already the people in place that just didn't kind of fit in. It was kind of weird, but we didn't think much of it. We sit down at a table. This one drunk guy just comes up and starts talking our heads off. And he just made himself at home at our table. And it was really weird, almost like he was trying to distract us. And he finally walked away, and she was kind of telling me about some weird people she saw when she went to the bathroom. And we're sitting there, and this woman walks into the restaurant with her phone, like she's getting ready to take a picture. She sees us, and she's literally like getting ready to snap a picture of us. And I notice her. We both noticed her, and she saw that we noticed her, and she got scared, and then you could see the fear, like she panicked, and then she snapped a picture of something over the bar, and then looked at her phone for a second, and then took a picture of us and walked out.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, did you see that? Like, you couldn't deny it, right? So, she's tapped in, she's a channel, and we get home, and she asked, what was that about? And it was a group, essentially, just basically, she said they don't know why they get the assignment, but they're just told to go ID this person. And they were in particular, in this case, they were wanting to positive ID anybody that they believed was in real communication with extraterrestrials, which she is. And they just wanted to ID us. Basically, they needed to get a face photo match, right, whatever. And I mean, that's what she was told. We don't have documents saying that, right? But it happened. Nevertheless, it happened, and it was so apparent to us, it was very real. And the whole trip was pretty wild. There was some gray. I for the first time in my life, I saw a gray ET, and it was wild. But they definitely make sure that sometimes they want you to know that they're watching. Sometimes they don't. I don't know how it works,
right?
But those people are everywhere. And that woman that walked in and took a picture of us, you'd walk past her on the street every day. You just think she's another person. You would have no idea that she works as a field agent for the CIA or whatever agency she's working for.
And that's the thing. It depends on how awake you are to all this stuff. I mean, you could just be sitting doing your day-to-day stuff and not even realize what's going on around you, because we kind of like the horse with the blinders on, we don't really pay attention to our surroundings. But once you become awake and you start opening up these doors, you start noticing little odd stuff happening around. And it makes me wonder, was this woman actually really working with them, or was she being controlled? That's like the Matrix. Did something come into her all of a sudden, take over, and then she took that thing, but otherwise she would have never probably have done that.
Right.
Maybe she went through a time slip. She
100
didn't even realize she did it.
Exactly. Like
Mhm.
there's so many things that are possible we just don't think
Mhm.
about. We don't understand.
Wow.
I don't I could give you a number of other examples like that, but um it happens. I mean, especially I feel like you said, people's lack of self-awareness is astonishing. You don't realize it until you start observing yourself and realizing like, oh, my lack of self-awareness is
Mhm.
astonishing. We're so distracted by so many things in our life. We don't know. You could walk right past Bigfoot, drive right past. You would never know. No one's looking over there. Everyone's looking
Right.
at their phone or forward, and you're not actually present with the energies. Like you said, you can be passing things up. There could be beings and other frequencies just right next to you that you could perceive if you were present, but you're not present. So you're just going past them every single day. The
Right.
same goes with these other people who don't quite fit in. They're here, but they don't quite fit in, and we can't put our finger on it, but we know something's off. There's there's something to it. And when you're not self-aware and you're just in zombie mode and autopilot all the time, then you're just kind of like playing right into their hands. So it's always good to be, especially doing this work and like doing what we do and all that stuff. I don't just like go anywhere haphazardly anymore. Maybe it's a little overly paranoid, but like if I go into a restaurant by myself, I make sure like I can see the exit and see everybody in there. And I'm like looking at everybody. I'm like, is that a real person? Is he a watcher? Like, I don't know. But I swear, whenever you start like training yourself to do that, it's a great tool to have, because now you're like hyper observant and you don't miss things and you notice things. And if something is coming after you or something like a negative, whatever, you can, create the scenario in your head. If something is happening, you have a better chance of recognizing it.
Right.
Right.
I don't know what this is. If Blazer asked if this happened on your first date or the start of a relationship. I don't know if he was talking about when you were on the phone and was being attacked, or the pizza place thing. I'm not sure.
I mean, I guess no, it really wasn't a first date scenario, no. But that's an interesting question, because I definitely do think that they target couples like that too, like the Adjustment Bureau.
Right.
I mean, that's very true.
Yeah.
They when two people, like in the movie, they said, "Oh, but they kissed." But if they kiss, it doesn't matter. But if they kiss and meant it, then it would change things. So they have
Right.
to keep the people at such like a low frequency to where they can't even fully be present with each other, fully be in that heart space with each other, because if they are, then that love bond, that sacred connection, will be detrimental to the dark. And the new Matrix Resurrections movie depicts it beautifully with Neo and Trinity. The whole purpose of the movie was the guy realized that if he couldn't, like, it wasn't just he was like struggling. He couldn't figure out why he couldn't like turn Neo on and use him for what he needed him for. And then he realized, oh, he needed Trinity too. But together they were detrimental to the dark. So he couldn't have them together, but he had to keep them just close enough so that he could harvest the energy, but just close enough so they remembered each other and knew each other and like missed each other and longed for each other, so he can utilize that energy. But if they ever connected and fully remembered their connection, then it was game over for them. They showed that in the Adjustment Bureau, and they showed that in the Matrix. There's something to that. That's why a lot of these relationships are targeted, in my opinion.
I mean, that's why we always say, put out positive intentions and love and peace out into the universe, because love is the most powerful force that they cannot fight. I mean, if it's true love, if your intentions are really good and you really, like me and Jane, really have true love, then there is nothing that can fight that, as long as you guys stay together.
Right. But that's the thing. They try to make it as miserable as possible. They can manipulate things in your reality and steer you in certain directions. And they have, like, there's books on this, on what the these technologies are capable of doing. They can make you forget things like important dates, like your girlfriend's anniversary or her birthday or anything. Like they can make you forget things that would actually ultimately like send your relationship spiraling, right?
Right.
And because then she's going to wonder, and yeah, why did you forget that? And you're going to be like, how did I, you won't even know how you forgot it, because it's out of your character to forget something like that. But then you read a book, and then in the book, it describes the technology that can do this. And you're like, oh, so I'm not crazy, So and then because it didn't make sense, that happened to me. Like I was like becoming super forgetful about simple things that were affecting my relationship. And I couldn't explain it. And I would literally have to sit there and like, how did I forget that? Like I couldn't figure out how I would forget it either. It just didn't make sense until I'm like, oh, is there something externally manipulating the situation here? Anyway, they can manipulate things like that to ultimately destroy the relationship.
I mean, I don't know if it's in the book or not, but the movie, The Adjustment Bureau, where the guy explains to him, about free choice. Yeah, you have free choice, maybe to pick your soda flavor or something as trivial as that, but everything else is not free choice. And how many times has that happened during our life where we may be going on something very important and the car won't start, or there's a wreck on a highway and it delays us for 2 hours, or we can't go to that first date to meet somebody at a restaurant because there's a bus accident or something happened, right, and we didn't make it, and they leave just like in that movie, and you don't see each other again.
Right.
I mean, did they stop that relationship because they knew it was going to be a strong bond and something was going to happen in your life because of that?
Yeah. I think absolutely that's the case.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, in the movie, they were able to make him spill coffee on himself, so he missed the bus, or at least that was the whole plan. But the guy fell asleep and missed the opportunity. But yeah, it's all very fascinating.
Like you said, you can't be too paranoid, but you have to be aware and not live in this 3D life as a zombie. That there is, black SUVs with blackout windows that may be following you. Just be aware of your surroundings, because you don't want to get too paranoid, like, oh no, there's another one. You can sit on your front porch and start noticing, that's not a normal vehicle. Or black helicopters flying over. You're talking to someone on the phone. All of a sudden, boom, there's a black helicopter flying over your house. It's not a coincidence.
Right, exactly. And some people some people think, oh, why would you think that you're special? You're so special that they're targeting you, whatever, like the ego, whatever.
Right.
But the thing is I have a friend who we've interviewed, Ben Gordon, who is targeted more than anybody I know. And he has the sauce. Like he has the receipts. He can prove that it's happening to him.
Wow.
And he is not doing any of this type of work, but it's because of who he is on a soul level that he doesn't fully remember yet, because we're constantly doing things in other realities, dimensions, frequencies that we don't remember, whether it's while we're sleeping during the day. Reality isn't what we think it is. And whatever he is doing, however he's affecting the timeline, they don't like. He's a threat. And just because he's the normal, average, everyday person here doesn't mean that he's not doing something far more significant somewhere else. So they target him here because they understand that like it spreads across realities, right? It spreads across frequencies. That's where people like they'll describe phantom pains and stuff, and they don't know where it comes from. That could have the pain could be coming from something that happened to you in a parallel reality.
Right.
I mean, I mean, the movie, The Sixth Day, it's a cloning movie, and if something happened to the clone, the other body would feel it, right? And because they're still consciously connected, and that's disclosure. There's something to that.
Yeah, just like you were saying though, just because me in this form right here in this timeline is just an ordinary guy, went to work, do this. But in the other dimensions, just like in Doctor Strange multiverse, each a copy of you in each dimension has different attributes, and like one could be a brain surgeon, one could be a plumber, one could be whatever, and we each have our own special abilities in each dimension. Even though it's still us, it's still a replica of us, but we each have our own little nuances about each other. And like you said, you don't know what your other person is doing in the other dimension. It could be doing something really profound, but they have to stop you at the same time or affect you to affect that copy.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it could also be, could they be watching us because of your parents or grandparents that they know that you've got ability, so they're keeping an eye on you because of generations.
They definitely track bloodlines. I mean, that's pretty, I mean, we can pretty much safe to say that, yeah, they do that. But I mean, there's, I'm in the process of writing my book right now.
Oh, cool.
Where I share a lot of memories that I have from what I would call other timelines. And like, I get like a lot of really vivid recall back sometimes, and to where I have to write it all down, and it'll be pages worth of stuff. And I'm finally putting it into a book, and a lot of the stories I've never told on interviews or anything like that. So, but I preface it with letting people know that, this isn't like, I'm not claiming to have been a part of a secret space program or this or that, but I have these memories. There's no way that they fit into this reality, but this is, they're too important, too significant, and have impacted me too much not to write down. And I think other people could benefit from them. And like, I don't know if everyone has the luxury of remembering these specific details from other versions of themselves and what they're doing in other realities. And I don't know why the memories come back sometimes. So I'm putting them in a book, and along with my whole story and everything else. And I've been working on that pretty hard lately, but I have a lot of other things going too, so I can't work on it as hard as I want to, like as much as I want to, but that is definitely in the works.
That kind of brings me to a point of where Jane will ask me when she wakes up, was I here all night? Because she'll have vivid dreams where she's somewhere else or part of on a spaceship and doing an important mission or whatever. And I'll wake up in the middle of the night and roll over, and she's still there. But is she really still there? Is that this shell
out of body,
or has she left her body and went on this mission, or is that an ultimate dimension that she's experienced? Or,
and I know they're not dreams,
or just a straight up memory coming back in the form of a dream,
right?
Or bleed through, like literally bleed through from another version of yourself that did experience that, and because you're connected, it's bleeding through into this reality. And as you come closer, as you awaken, and I think these realities start to merge, and I think they're becoming closer, and sometimes it's going to get really confusing if you're paying attention, because things aren't going to make sense anymore. Like the very fabric of reality isn't even going to make sense, because you're going to start seeing what they call glitches in the matrix and things, because there are timelines like overlapping and realities are merging, and people are remembering things like that in the form of dreams and stuff. So
makes me wonder if at one point is our dimensional beings, like the 356 copies of me or you or Jane, at one point is our timeline supposed to merge where all these aspects come in all together and we become one entity, and we're our best best representation of everything?
Yeah, I believe so. I think a lot of these timelines were created artificially, and by artificially I mean, so man, it's a whole long story to try and explain it all, but I think there's groups that have access to looking glass technologies that can see future probabilities and other timelines, and what's possible and what's not. And just like Bill Wood in the 2012 Looking Glass interview with Carrie Cassidy, he said that they couldn't see anything past 2012, and then eventually they only saw, like, they had timeline 1 and timeline 2. Timeline 1 was like this ascension timeline, and timeline 2 was this dystopian timeline, right? But timeline 2 would always phase out, fizzle away, and only in the ascension timeline would prevail. And I think that what happens is these groups, even though they know the inevitable is coming, they still delusionally think that they can create some sort of timeline or throw a wrench in the gear and actually manipulate what's coming and stop what's coming. So they alter the timeline and create, quite literally create, alternative realities to where they have the upper hand, to where they think that their AI agenda is going to work and all this stuff is going to work. And we see it because it gets blended in with our own reality. But all of those ultimately collapse. They resolve. They consume themselves, right, because they're not organically created from the heart. They have an ulterior motive. There's agendas behind them. But let's just say there's other versions of us in those realities that are created. And as those realities, as those timelines collapse because they have nowhere to go, that memory, essentially, that aspect of your soul rehomes again. And when it rehomes, you start to remember that.
Right.
And I think it's important to write this stuff down, because sometimes if in the timeline collapses entirely, you might not have any memory of it once it's gone, and you just won't know any better. So if you can write this stuff down or tell your husband or wife what happened to you or whatever, like you're retaining that memory. And it might not like be the most important thing in the world, because it's like it just might not be that important, but it's also might help you understand like who you are and how we're being spread across different realities.
Right. And I think they did. I think they separated us into different dimensions just to keep us separated, and so we can't be this powerful person or entity that we were supposed to be from the very beginning. Like, I could just be this fantastic carpenter or worker in this world, and the next dimension I'm a star pilot, one of the best ones, for the galactic force, or another one I'm a surgeon, or and if you put all that together, they just cannot fight that. And I think they want to keep us separated in a dimensionally wise, that we don't ever have those abilities all at one time.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think of it. I've never really thought of it exactly like that before, but yeah, I mean, I think it's all
just like you said, if those other timelines and they get dissolved and they home out, then we start waking up to our abilities again, whether it's channeling or
right,
whatever your ability ends up being, it comes back home to you, and one more piece of the puzzle is added to your identity or your sovereignty.
Well, if I remember right, I thought Tony Rodriguez talked about one morning he realized like one of his clones was done or something, and he just kind of felt like more complete, or that happened with more clones and more clones. You're just becoming more complete.
Right.
So I mean, you felt a difference, like, wow, something just happened to one of my alters, or, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. And I've experienced that too, but he was specifically talking about like the 20 and back, and like he thinks it came to an end, and like he was back, into his, rehomed again. Right. And but he said, like, leading up to it, there was a lot of brain fog. He was dissociated, like he was like not fully present, fumbling with his words and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden he was back, and he could like think again and see clearly and think clearly. And I've experienced that before too. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but it makes me wonder, because there's times when I can't finish a sentence. I can't find a word that I'm looking for to save my life. I stutter. I lose my train of thought. It doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden one day I'm like, oh, I feel normal again, So, what's really interesting is what we were talking just before we went live. I was telling you about something that just happened to me like last week, a couple days ago. I was having a dream where I was in like a safe house, like a CIA safe house, right? Like, and there was other agents there. But I knew, like, I didn't want to be there. I don't know how I even got there, but I was there. I was against my will. I was there. I don't know how I ended up there. And there was a suspect in holding in one of the bedrooms in the house. And they told me that I had to kill him. They gave me a gun, and they told me I had to go in go in and shoot this guy in the head. And they said, if I don't shoot him, they're going to shoot me. And I was like crying. I started crying. I'm like, I'm not a killer. I can't kill somebody. I'm not going to kill them. And they like had threatened me, and I kept delaying and delaying. And they said, they gave me a time, like it has to, if you don't go in there and do it by this time, then it's your time. Like your time is up, So I kept delaying, and I was literally crying. I was sobbing. The thought of going in and shooting somebody in the head, I couldn't do it. And I finally, like, somebody was like, yo, bro, you got to go. It's time. Like, trust me, you don't want to know what happens if you don't do that. So I didn't even bring the gun with me. And I walked into the bedroom, and the guy was sitting there in the bed, and he looked up, and I was like, hey, I said, I'm not going to kill you. He's like, you don't have a gun? I'm like, no. He's like, why not? I said, we don't have to do that. I said, we can escape. We can figure something out. I'm not going to kill you. I was like crying even then. I was like, I can't do it. I just can't get myself to shoot you. And he's like, you're really not going to kill me. You really don't have a gun. And I was like, no. And he's like, why? And I said, I can't do it. He's like, it's easy. You just do like this. And he pulled a gun out of his back and he shot me in the head. Oh. And it was the first time in my dream that I ever experienced death. And I felt myself die, and I was leaving my body. And I remember also having the thought of, oh, that's what it feels like to be shot. Cause I always wondered, like, what's it feel like to be shot? And I died. I experienced the death process. Everything went black, and my soul was leaving my body. And as I was leaving and like realizing, like, oh, I'm dead. Like I was dead. Like I really thought I died. I woke up in my bed here, and I was having a seizure. I couldn't control myself. I was shaking. My whole body was shaking, and I couldn't stop it from happening. I was having a seizure from like dying in this other reality and coming back. And wow. It finally went away. I was like, what the fuck? Like I was out of breath, and I was like, did I just die? Like I didn't even know where I was, Right. I was so amazed to wake up in my bed and still be here, because wow. I literally experienced like a version of me get shot in the head, and I felt like I could still hear the gunshot, like it was real, and feel like you don't feel anything really, because it was just like instant death. But I was just so it's fucked me up for the whole rest of the next day. Like I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm like, what was that about? Like and then I was like, I text my friends, like, have you ever died in a dream? Have you ever experienced that? Because every time in a dream you're usually about to die, you wake up. Like I've never actually been killed and then woken up. And it's still like it was just a couple days ago. It's still, I've been thinking about that. And I wonder like if that was what's that about,
Yeah, did that really happen in another multiverse or parallel? Right.
Yeah, because you always see the movies where they talk about if you die here, you die in real life, and it's like that's scary to think about.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know what it means, but even thinking about it, I kind of get nervous and worked up. I've never really, I haven't said it out loud yet, besides a text to one of my friends. But
wow,
yeah.
Well, the more we wake up, the more questions we keep getting.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the thing I wonder is, we're talking about all these dimensions and multiverses and stuff. Is like, okay, which one of me is the original, or which one is there one more important than the other? Am I it? Am I the Neo?
Right.
Or is somebody else, or is my higher consciousness, above everything else? Where does this lead to? Where does it go?
I definitely ask myself the same exact question, and I like to believe that this is the timeline one, as you call it, the ascension timeline, that has somehow in some way been solidified, in the sense that they can alter it and try to manipulate it, but inevitably the ascension, the 1,000 years of peace, whatever's coming happens. And that's why we're all under attack on this timeline. And that's why everything's merging and bleeding into this one and collapsing into this one. And like we interview people like Daryl James, who like literally talks about going to his VA gym in St. Pete, Florida, and meeting people from the program who were time travelers that left the other timeline because they saw it was going to collapse. So they left the timeline to come here. Now, why would you come here unless you knew that this timeline was the timeline that made it?
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, this stuff all sounds absolutely insane. If you're tuning in for the first time and you don't believe in any of this stuff, and I fully understand it, and I'm ready for the ridicule, right? I don't even care anymore. But I think that if we don't start like leaving the game board, right? Like, and realizing that we're actually playing some sort of a game here, that there's something going on, that there even is a game board, that I think that we can, like, if we don't start doing that and start questioning things and asking these questions and having these crazy conversations. I mean, I think that's what the awakening looks like. I think this is what it looks like. We have to start having these conversations that just make us sound absolutely nuts. But we plant seeds and Jumanji, exactly. It's like a big game of Jumanji. But you know what I'm saying?
Really, who hasn't questioned, why am I here? What is my purpose? And that's just another extension of what we're talking about today. What makes us who we are, or why do we feel incomplete sometimes, that we don't have all our abilities, we don't have all our genius in our mind or capabilities that we think we should have. And once in a while we unlock those, all of a sudden it's like, where did that come from? Why did I have that thought, or why did I think of this?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, I don't know, we're remembering aspects of ourselves. They say that if you're drawn to it, you were involved with it. Right. And like, meaning it doesn't matter if it's a career, profession, whatever. Like, why are you interested in something in this reality? It doesn't make any sense why you're so drawn to the military, or you're so drawn to do this or that, unless another version of you somewhere else knows that energy, and it feels like home to you. And whenever you go and explore it in this reality, it satisfies you in ways that you don't understand, because another version of you is doing that somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just so, I don't know, it's mind-boggling. I mean, it'll make your head hurt thinking about all this stuff, but yet it's a good conversation that we really need to have with everybody. What's going on? Why do we think the way we do? Why do we act the way we do? Because we change and we're evolving all the time, and that's because other aspects of different dimensional parts of ourselves are coming back home, or we're remembering stuff, or experiencing what we have previously, or a higher consciousness to say, okay, it's time for you to know this now.
Yeah, I agree. They're talking about CERN in the chat. I think CERN is definitely trying to create timelines, open dimensions, whatever they're doing. They're trying to artificially create something, right? And I think they can keep trying, and maybe they're going to be successful in some ways, but not. I feel like they can win the battle, but they can't win the war. You know what I mean?
Right. I think I heard they were going to be turning back on. I think the 17th or something like that. CERN's going to kick on again.
Yeah. Anything they can do right now to thwart the efforts of the positive timeline, they're going to do. I mean,
and I think I just saw it online where somebody said that pay attention to yourself during that time, because there's going to be a change, that you're going to feel different, that you're either going to a new aspect of a timeline, or something's going to change in our timeline when that happens.
Yeah, right. I agree. That's the weird thing. Like, how do you know if something changes or not? Because you wouldn't know, you wouldn't have memory of it, because if something changes, it's erased, like a Mandela effect, right? You notice something's different, but you don't know what changed or what caused it to change. and I get into this like really deep in my book, and it talks a lot about this stuff. But yeah.
Well, they say your body, so your body has to change along with it, your physical body. So if you start feeling achy or if your bones hurt or something physical starts changing in you, you got to kind of wonder, okay, did something frequency vibrational around me just change to make me feel this way? Because my body has to adjust to the new vibration and frequencies that are going around.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting that you say that, because the day after I was shot, that next day was fine. It was weird, but the next morning after that, I woke up really sick. This was just like Friday morning. It was Friday morning. I woke up really sick, like flu-like symptoms and all this stuff, and I'm like, where did this come from? And I started taking my oregano oil, which, by the way, is like nature's cold medicine. If anybody's starting to get sick, just take oregano oil. It works amazing. But and I only was sick for like a couple hours, like because I just like picked myself up and I was able to. But I remember waking up that next morning and my whole body hurt, and I was like struggling to get to the bathroom. I was sick. All I wanted to do was sleep, and maybe something was changing. Maybe like because a version of me died, like I was reintegrating something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's just weird. I mean, you got to think about these things, and it's like, and you start questioning yourself, like, "Oh, that's crazy. That's weird." But at the same time, it's like, well, does that kind of explain what's going on? I mean, that's what makes these conversations so unique and so great, that we dive down these rabbit holes and think outside the box.
Right. Yeah, you have to. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Tyler, I think this would be a good place to end and stop. And I mean, it's just been great having you on again. And once again, we start going down these rabbit holes, and before you know it, it's time to end.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know I have some other stuff going on right now. I'd love to stay longer, but I just can't tonight. But I'm happy to come on anytime and
Well,
just
thank you.
dive even deeper, get even crazier.
Yeah.
Well, same for you. Anytime you would like us to have come on any of your panel shows and talk about anything, because we cover multiple subjects. So we're all over the place and think about this. Me and Jane have these conversations all the time amongst each other, anyway.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to set something up. That would be fun. Yeah, I think it would be cool. So definitely. But thanks for having me back. And
yeah, so go ahead and tell them what you're doing tonight then.
Yeah, so if you guys want to head over to the Journey to Truth Rumble channel, Journey to Truth podcast on Rumble, we're going live right there with this roundtable of amazing people. Journey to Truth is sponsoring this event in Sedona, the Odyssey event. It's a one-day event, and we're just going to do a roundtable, kind of like set the stage, and create a buzz going for this event, try and push a few last-minute ticket sales, and then we will I'll be actually at this event, not speaking, but I'm going to be doing some live podcasts and stuff from the event. So if you guys want to head over there and like and subscribe to our channel as well if you haven't already, we really would appreciate that. And if you want to learn anything about Journey to Truth podcast and what we do, you can go to journeytotruth.online, our website, and you can find everything we do there, including signing up for our new newsletter and our Patreon, where we have exclusive and bonus content, and to stay up to date on everything we have coming up.
All right.
Would you like to answer this for us? I mean, I can answer. I mean, I don't do daily, but yeah, if you're really sick.
No, definitely not.
Be careful. Just do one small little drop. Don't do it straight. It will burn the heck out of you. Mix it with juice and stuff like that. But I'll let you explain that also.
Yeah, you nailed it. Not daily. It's too much. It's too potent.
Yeah.
It has the same effect as like a jalapeno oil. Like you don't want to get it on your skin. It'll actually burn your skin. It'll burn your lips. But you can ingest it. They sell the pills, like capsules with the oil in it, which I don't like actually, because it makes my stomach hurt, especially if you don't have a full stomach. I like to just either, if I'm sick and I'm like the other day, my throat was tingling, I drop it straight down my throat. I don't recommend it, but I can handle it because I'm used to it. but it targets the sore throat immediately, and you'll start feeling you might feel worse for like 30 minutes or think you're feeling worse, but what it's doing is your body is it's extracting everything that doesn't belong, all the virus and the toxins and whatever, it's pulling it out, and you might be like spitting up stuff, but
Right.
It's not essential oils either, people. This is food grade.
Yeah, not
oregano oil. This is not an essential oil. Don't get the essential oil. This is the food grade.
Absolutely, yeah. And
you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah, you can get it at local vitamin shops too and stuff. But
yeah.
What I do if I don't want to take it straight is I will put it in a shot glass with orange juice most of the time if I can, and I'll just shoot it. I'll open my throat up and don't let it hit my lips if I can help it. And I only do it a couple times, maybe every few hours, or maybe like twice a day if I'm really starting to get sick. And then I stop once I'm starting to feel better. I only use it if I'm getting sick because it's intense. It's intense. It's not the greatest flavor, and it like lingers. You can smell it and stuff. But once you realize what it's actually doing, then you're like, oh,
right.
Okay. Like it's like alcohol. Nobody likes the way beer tastes the first time, but then you're like, oh, I like this, until you're like graduate from that chapter of your life.
That's like the mixture of what is it, Louisiana firewater or whatever that is, where it has oregano and all that stuff.
Master tonic. It's got
cayenne pepper,
radish.
Everything
in it.
Does it burn and light your throat up and everything? And you just feel that heat go all through your body. But that is crazy.
Right. But I have not found anything that works better personally. There is no cold medicine on the market, in my opinion, that that can compete with oregano oil. Like just cut the crap, just go straight to the source, get the oregano oil, and that's your cold medicine.
And yes, brown dwarf, it smells like pizza.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, this has been great. We'll be tuning in tonight, watching your show on Rumble, and hope everybody else goes over there and checks it out. It's 7 p.m. right, Central.
Yep, 7 p.m. Central.
7 p.m. Central.
All right. Thank you so much. Awesome. It's been a blast.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Don't leave yet. We'll just say goodbye to the chat and we'll end. So thank you everybody for coming. Everybody that's been in chat. We tried to get any questions you had and acknowledged you. And I was doing really good at the beginning, then kind of lost track in the conversation. But thank you all for coming.
And thank you, moderators.
Yep. Thank you, moderators. We'll see you again next Sunday, and keep looking up. And Jane always says,
keep your vibrations high.
That's right. All right. Love you guys.
Bye, everyone. Love you.
Thank you.
See you guys.